Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
All right, that open mic tape. Let's just cut to the chase here. That open mic tape is in a microcosm what this entire election is about. And you're probably saying, what? Yeah, it is. That whole thing is exactly what this election is. It's exactly what Trump winning the nomination is about. Now, whether he's going to see it through to victory in the presidential race remains to be seen. Greetings, folks. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh back at it. Here we are, safely ensconced, the EIB Southern Command. And it's great to have you here, as always. The telephone number, if you want to be on the program, is 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. I want to take you back to when I first heard about this, and I want to share with you my initial gut reaction to this, and then I attempted to, I didn't have to try very hard because I am one of you, I tried to put myself in the shoes of your average person on the Republican Party side that's supporting Trump. This is an election, and Trump wins the Republican nomination precisely because a whole lot of Republicans are fed up with what? The Republican establishment and the Washington establishment, the elites and the way they do things, and the way they run campaigns, and the way they run Washington. And I believe, and I thought this is my first reaction. It was my reaction, too, and I was hoping it was the reaction of millions of people. Putting aside for a moment what was on that tape, and by the way, there will be more, folks. Do not doubt. If they've got that, they've got more, so steel yourself. That's the point. I think a whole lot of people are sick and tired of things like this determining the outcome of elections. These October surprise kinds of things. It may not have been safe to say this back in the year 2000. It might not have been safe to say it in 2004, but a lot of ground has been covered. And there is so much hypocrisy on the left when you get to the subject matter of that open mic tape, Access Hollywood, Trump running around there with Billy Bush. Who are the people expressing outrage over this? The very people who applauded and celebrated JFK, who had women trooped into the White House in droves. Bill Clinton, you go through the list of Democrats and entertainers who have made their names on the basis of infidelity and catting around and being celebrated and protected and lauded and held up as great people. Hey, that's sex. It's not their job. Hey, that's just private life. It doesn't matter to their leadership. There are serious issues facing this country. We are at a crossroads where many people think that the wrong decision by the people in November will doom this country to a generation of further decline, and it needs to be stopped. And this kind of way to derail a campaign or to win an election of the Democrat, I hope that it has people fit to be tied. And I am hoping that there is going to be a giant backlash over it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that it does not matter who the Republican Party nominates. This is what's going to happen. If they can turn Mitt Romney into a living, breathing devil, they can do it to anybody. Mitt Romney is, as I have said countless times before, one of the finest human beings, one of the finest men you will find alive today in terms of character, demeanor, manner, you name it. And what were they able to do to him? They were able to portray him as a guy who killed his dog by putting it on the roof of the station wagon, as a guy who didn't pay his taxes for 10 years, as a guy who did not care that the wives of employees of his were dying because Romney didn't care enough about health care to give these people health care. They died of cancer. If they were able to demonize Mitt Romney, and they've demonized George W. Bush, they'll be able to demonize anybody. And if this is the kind of way they go to win elections, they're never going to stop winning elections. If this is all it takes, and I think a number of people have become outraged by this, and I don't think there are very many, if at all, defections from Trump among his core supporters. Now, we know he needs more than that. And I'm not telling you that, and I'm not making any predictions here as to what's happening, but you go to this debate last night, and I'm telling you that the fact that after the first 20 minutes, Trump was able to sweep this aside despite that debate last night was about destroying Donald Trump's life. That debate and this whole episode was about destroying Donald Trump's future, his career, his business, his life. That debate and this whole release of that tape, and I'm not excusing what's on it, but he's not the only person to ever speak this way. He's not the only person to ever seek office. He may have said these things, but the Democrats have nominated and elected and celebrated people who do these things. And where is the outrage over it? I find it ironic that the Democrat Party wants to throw down the morality card. The Democrat Party, which is responsible for the dissolution of morality in this country. The Democrat Party, which is for all these progressive new attitudes in our culture. And now all of a sudden acting like a bunch of prudes, acting like, oh, my God, I have never been this outraged. Oh, this is just beyond the pale. These are the architects of this kind of stuff. If Trump were a Democrat, they'd be covering it up and privately inviting him to parties and yucking it up. But the reason this happened, and it's going to happen again, they can't afford. Folks, this is what it looks like. I kept telling people over the weekend when people were asking my opinion on it, I said, this is what it looks like when you take on the establishment. This is exactly what it looks like. It isn't going to be pretty. It isn't going to be clean. It isn't going to be pristine. The establishment, with everything they are invested in the establishment, remaining the establishment and in power, they're just not going to sit back and trust this to your votes. They're not going to trust this to an election, to a campaign. They're not going to trust it at all. They're going to do everything they can to destroy whoever it is that wants to take control from them. And in the process, they're going to destroy that person so as to send a message to the next guy, don't even think about it. Don't even try. Look what we did to Donald Trump. Look what we did to whoever is the message. When this whole thing began, when it became clear that what this was going to be an effort to unseat the elites, the establishment, whatever you want to call them, you have to have a sober understanding of who they are and what it means to them. And they're not just going to throw it open to what they think is a fair election. They can't control a fair election. I think that given the circumstances in which this campaign is taking place and the various stages of challenges facing this country, this kind of throwdown, this kind of October surprise, I have a feeling, while I'm sure it depressed a number of you. Oh, no, there we go again. After that, I am confident a whole slew of you got livid and angry and fed up that this is what always happens. And none of this has anything to do with the issues on which you have chosen to support Trump. Or not, depending. And the people who have signed up for Trump, I can tell you, are livid that this is the kind of thing that always seems up determining the outcome of an election. And these are the kind of things that are never thrown down against Democrats. The Democrats get away with all of this hypocrisy. The left gets away with all of this hypocrisy. And I was thinking over the weekend, I was asking, and I was thinking at the same time, what are the odds that there's a potential backlash brewing over this kind of thing? Because you can make book that this is the kind of thing that's going to happen. They're going to lie. They're going to destroy. The left, the media, the state is going to destroy however they can anybody every 4 years that claims to be on the Republican ballot, claims to be seeking to unseat the state, the Democrats, and media complex. And like I say, folks, it's not insignificant. They did the same thing to Mitt Romney. In that case, they made it all up, but it stuck, didn't it? And they did it, didn't they? And so for everybody, see, we got to get rid of Trump, man. We've got to throw Trump over. Trump's not going to do it to any of you who try it. The same kind of thing is going to happen to anybody and everybody. If you want to throw Trump overboard, you know what you ought to do? You ought to just concede the presidency to the Democrats and apologize for ever trying. And hope that they forgive you. Because that's the message being sent here. There isn't a single. Ted Cruz, take your pick. Take your pick. If any of these Republicans who had won the nomination, you think this wouldn't have happened? You think there would not have been an October surprise? You think there wouldn't have been lies about... And you realize that there is not a human being alive. This is another key point, folks. When I say this is what it looks like when an outsider seeks to unseat the elites, the insiders, establishment, whatever you want to call it, they all, particularly those that are in elective office, they live their lives for one reason: public consumption. For purposes of election, they live their lives. They file their taxes. They dress. They speak. Everything they do is designed to hold up under the Klieg lights of campaigns. In the process, they are phony, baloney, plastic banana, good time rock and rollers. They become robots, political robots. When they speak about politics, it's a recitation of issues from a handbook and playbook. It isn't real. You know it, and I know it. But it's how they guarantee re-election. It's how they guarantee election in the first place. Well, somebody from the outside, let's use Trump since he's the candidate. He's not lived his life for this kind of exposure. He has not lived his life for the constant realization and planning and scheming that whatever he does or doesn't do must be done in specific ways because I'm running for office. So therefore, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do this. I must do this. I must do this. He has not lived his life that way. They do. They construct their finances, their tax returns, their public disclosure forms, financial disclosure. Everything they do is designed to pass muster under the Klieg lights of so-called media examinations every 4 years when they run for office, or in the case of the House, every 2 years. But somebody on the outside, doesn't matter, could be Trump, could be Anastas Mikoyan. Take your pick of anybody that would ever seek the presidency who's not from the world of politics. And the same thing would be the case. They have lived their lives totally differently. They've been real. They may have been bankrupt. They may have earned a lot of money. They may have taken advantage of the tax code. They may be married 3 or 4 times. Who knows what it is? But they're not phonies in the sense that the insiders are. So this is what it looks like. It's always going to be this way, whether it's Trump or anybody else. Anybody on the outside, by definition, runs the risk of being exposed by the insiders as somebody unfit and unsuited and ill-tempered, precisely because they don't come from the world of politics. The best illustration of this is the argument over Trump's tax returns. I'll guarantee you that if Donald Trump back in 1995 or even 1990 thought that he was going to run for president someday, his tax returns would look entirely different. His career would look entirely different. It would be structured entirely differently. It'd be structured in such a way as to pass muster under the phony examination of political publicity. So there's not somebody out there. There's not a human being, there's not a normal red-blooded American man who has not said something to somebody that, if exposed, would not be embarrassing, would not be humiliating, would not get them in trouble. There is not a single person in this world, male, female, straight, gay, you name it, who could survive what Donald Trump has been subjected to, because everybody would be subjected to, and we all have committed quote-unquote sins as defined by the political class. And who knows who has collected tape on us? Who knows, with the advent of cell phones, what kind of video and pictures there are out there? And who knows who can be bought off and provided? Who knows who can be paid to lie about you? The candidate clean and pure as the wind-driven snow does not exist, but they try to tell us they do exist in the political world. And they don't there either. Mr. or Miss or Ms. or Mrs. Perfect does not exist. There is not a single human being, and I mean this. You can take the most moral man you know. It could be your grandfather, it could be your father, could be, and there's dirt somewhere because we're human. And men talk a certain way. Women talk a certain way. Do not think they don't. Everybody talks certain ways. Everybody. And if you are seeking to unseat the establishment, if you are seeking to win the White House from outside the world of politics, they are going to destroy. This is what it looks like. It was never going to be pretty. It was never going to be fair. It was never going to be left open to an unchallenged election. It was never going to be left to chance. The challenger was always going to suffer an attempt at destruction, no matter who he or she was or is. The establishment simply cannot afford to be ousted. They're not going to put up with it. They wouldn't tolerate it. They're going to do everything they can to hold on to, which is also natural. People with power just don't sit around and let it be taken away from them, which is what an election they lose would be. So you're not going to get a pristine campaign. You're not going to get a perfect candidate. You're not going to get somebody who doesn't have any smudges or doesn't have any smears on them. You're not going to find anybody. And especially you're not going to find them in the political world either. Biggest collection of phony baloney, plastic, but had a good time rock and rollers you can find. They define their lives by that, so that they can survive specific things like this. Anyway, I take a break. We will continue. Just getting started here, folks. I'll tell you one other thing. All these people on the left and the media running around outrageously offended. They're not offended in the slightest by what Trump said. They're capitalizing on it. They're the ones who have set up this permissive society. They're the ones who have shredded the boundaries. They are the ones who have erased. These are the people that take money from people in Hollywood that produce some of the most depraved content we've seen. And they celebrate it, and they applaud it, and they call it great art. And it's far, far more destructive in terms of how it's portrayed than what Trump's talking about on some bus in a studio lot at Access Hollywood. So the hypocrisy on this is tenfold. They get to act like they're righteously indignant and like this is the greatest assault on morality and decency, and these people have presided over the destruction of decency in song lyrics that they produce, music, in books they write, television shows that they produce, movies. For these people to act like they've never heard these words before and never heard them used this way, it's opportunism. It is nothing to do with the issues. It has nothing to do with the future of this country. And my guess is that a slew of Americans are fed up with all of this kind of rot gut determining electoral outcomes, particularly this year. And I am hoping there is a huge backlash over this entire tactic. Greetings and welcome back. It's great to have you. Rush Limbaugh. We'll be working your phone calls into all this, but I'll tell you there's a lot of stuff to come. I actually think I've been going through some of the emails, Hillary Clinton emails that WikiLeaks has done. You know, some blockbusters in there? There are some literal bombshells about Hillary Clinton that if her supporters learn of them and believe them, she's going to have problems. Particularly if there are some Bernie Sanders supporters that have signed on, whether they're not going to like what have been released in emails to John Podesta and so forth. I also have, and I want to get to these today too, and it may take a while, I just want to tell you up front because each of these pieces are quite long. There are 3 brilliant pieces on all of this by women. Denise McAllister at PJ Media, America, you have no right to judge Donald Trump. Rebecca Tetty at American Greatness on the lewdness of Donald Trump. And it is again oriented toward how much hypocrisy there is, people asking like they're acting righteously offended and indignant in the midst of our current culture is hypocritical to no end, particularly on the Democrat Party side. And Trump made a great illustration of this last night, and for the first time, the Clintons were put on the defensive about it, and that is Bill Clinton. All this time, whenever Bill Clinton's escapades, his real behavior was illustrated, we were told to forget it, ignore it, it's business, it's private, it has nothing to do with the way he led the country, nothing to do with the way he did his job, it's nobody's business, it's sex life, we've all got problems, leave it alone. And finally, it was brought up. But I'll tell you, I watched this debate, and I had no idea what to expect last night. I had no idea what to. I was very nervous when this thing started. I don't know about you, because I didn't know how Trump was going to deal with it. I knew it was going to be everybody in the room against Trump. I knew that the purpose of last night was to destroy Trump forever, and not just in this campaign. The purpose of last night, and it's a failure today, was to take Trump out forever, not just his political campaign. Donald Trump, the human being, was to be humiliated and destroyed and rendered so humiliated and embarrassed he would never be seen in public again. And that's the lesson any further additional future challenger to the establishment was to take from last night. The message is, don't mess with us. Do not come after us. We'll take you out, and you'll lose not just an election, you'll lose everything important to you. We will destroy you. That's what was on the agenda last night. And Trump triumphed unbelievably over this effort last night, to the point that Hillary Clinton was on the defensive for clearly over half of that debate last night. Now, stop and think of how this began. Stop and think what everybody knew the elephant in the room was. And the elephant last night was going to speak. The elephant in the room was not going to go unnoticed and unsaid. It was going to have a voice, and it did. And Trump beat it back. Now, I don't know if he beat it back to the point his campaign survives. We won't know this probably until Election Day. We're not going to have any idea. But we know that Trump and his campaign survive and have new energy and are continuing to roll today. In that context, this was a huge win. And Hillary, stop and think. I know what the Hillary strategy was last night. Same strategy debate one. Shut up and let Trump go ahead and talk himself into defeat. Led off and led with at rehash of the open mic tape from Access Hollywood back in 2005. And Hillary was just going to sit back and let it all implode around Trump and on Trump. And that didn't happen. And she was accused of a number of things that she had no answer for. Her husband was accused of a bunch of things she had no answer for. Not only no answer, she did not refute. She didn't even try. She didn't make any effort to refute some of the serious allegations that the Republican Party has never itself made against her. Last night was the first time that serious allegations that everybody has known about regarding the Clintons for 20 years were actually prosecuted. And for the first time, we saw Hillary Clinton didn't even have the guts to try to blame it on the vast right-wing conspiracy last night. She didn't have an answer for any of it, other than to say, fact checkers, there he goes lying again. Everything you just heard is a lie. And Trump even called her out on that. You have to understand, Trump today was supposed to be invisible. His campaign was supposed to be over. Mike Pence was supposed to leave the campaign last night. Trump was supposed to announce it was over today. The Republican Party and all of its people leaving Trump are now supposed to, right this very minute, be in meetings to choose a replacement nominee. That's what today was supposed to be. And it isn't what is. It was Hillary Clinton on defense all night, not Trump. Who would have thought that? This WikiLeaks dump that we have been privy to is really, as I say, got some, I think, bombshell things in it. Such as public and private positions. Did you hear her lame answer to that? She quoted Abe Lincoln. Oh, you didn't know the context. I was telling the bankers that I was speaking to that speech. Honest Abe, he had challenges. And he had the public and private. That's not what she was saying. She told a Brazilian bank that she favors open borders. She told Wall Street bankers she wanted to be their champion. She told Wall Street bankers that she wanted them involved in her administration because they were qualified to fix things are wrong. Hillary Clinton has run on the basis that she's going to destroy Wall Street, that she thinks they're the biggest enemy the average American has. She got people thinking that Wall Street is going to really pay if she's elected. She's in bed with them. We've known it all along. The WikiLeaks email dumps demonstrates it. This is precisely why she didn't want any of the transcripts released from those speeches, what she was being paid, $250,000 for every 20-minute speech. Not one transcript ever released. We now know why. Because it demonstrates that she's in bed with Wall Street. And don't forget, the Democrat Party makes big hay out of convincing their voters that they hate Wall Street and they're going to get even with Wall Street and they're going to destroy Wall Street and they're going to make Wall Street pay. They're going to make Wall Street pay for the financial crisis. They're going to make Wall Street pay for the bailout. They're going to make Wall Street pay for this. They're going to make Wall Street pay for that. Then healthcare comes up last night. Hillary Clinton believes in exactly what healthcare has been, and Trump is right. She wants single payer. She even admits that in these WikiLeaks email dumps. She wants a Canadian single-payer healthcare system. It's just like Obama. In his private meetings that we got tapes to prior to 2008 in that election, he's out promising to destroy the coal industry. And he has done it. And there's Hillary last night trying to say that she's got a plan that will employ displaced coal miners who are unfortunately rendered unemployed because of our advances in clean and renewable energy. She and Obama and her party are targeting fossil fuel industries. So there's dynamite available here today because of the WikiLeaks dump. There's a third piece on this whole Access Hollywood open mic video. Well, audio, I guess I should say, that the drive-bys just could not let go of for 2 days over the weekend. It's by Heather McDonald. It's entitled Trumped Up Outrage. The left condemns the GOP candidate even as it celebrates crudity and sexual exhibitionism throughout the culture. It's exactly right. That is exactly right. These are the people who celebrate sexual depravity in the name of a progressive, advancing culture. You think they're worried by the P word? You think they're worried by a bunch of locker room talk? Look at what they bring us in the form of entertainment. Do you remember Christopher Dodd, ladies and gentlemen, a senator from Connecticut? He was a good friend of Senator Kennedy, Senator Ted Kennedy. You know what they were known for in Washington? They were drinking buddies. And they would go to, now I'm having a mental block on the name of the restaurant. It's no longer open, I don't believe. La Brassiere. La Brassiere. When Ted Kennedy and Chris Dodd would go in there, the waitresses weren't safe. They were caught making a waitress sandwich in a private room. You know what a waitress sandwich is? Well, it's very simple. If you use your imagination, it's either Chris Dodd or Ted Kennedy on the bottom. The waitress in the middle and either Chris Dodd or Ted Kennedy on top. Mayonnaise extra. And it was a fun time. And this kind of thing was written about and acknowledged as what a great couple of guys. I mean, these guys are just so hip and so cool. I mean, they were known. Sinatra and the Rat Pack, they're known for this kind of stuff. They were heralded for it. They were real guys. They were real men. Back in the Sinatra era, you called women broads. And the broads didn't mind. Sinatra called you a broad, you were flattered. Sinatra walked in, you know what you did? You ran up and you tried to kiss him. Who hasn't seen women throwing their underwear at the Beatles in this? All of this is just this phony outrage in the form of an October surprise as a primary determining factor in who wins and loses elections. I just sense that a growing number of Americans are fed up with it and would be happy to participate in a backlash brought on by all this, because this has nothing to do with the issues that face this country that many people consider to be crucial if we're to hang on to this country as founded. So, I have reached that point in the busy broadcast hour where I must pause again for an obscene profit break, and I've got to start looking at getting phone calls in. So I'll do that. We'll start on the phones. But, man, folks, these three pieces I have by these women that I found, women writing about this, are classic. I can't read them all to you. I have to link to them at rushlimbaugh.com so you can easily find them. They're too long to actually read, but I got some excerpts from them, and I'll share that with you, plus other observations that I have made note of as the program continues to unfold. Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have Rush Limbaugh here as the brand new busy broadcast week commences, and we're going to start on the phones in San Antonio, Texas, with Andrew. Andrew, thank you for waiting. Great to have you on the program. You're first today. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, Rush. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you, sir.
Well, mega dittos to you from San Antonio, from a U.S. Army disabled veteran. Rush baby here. Been listening to you basically since I was alive. So really appreciate everything you have to say.
God bless you, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, listen, you set it up like you always do. You teed this baby up in your opening monologue, exactly what has been going through my head. I was talking to my wife last night about this whole tape that came out with Trump, and the backlash that needs to happen in this country against Hillary Clinton and liberal Democrats in general just ought to be ginormous, because it's just absolute fake indignation that is going on here. I mean, we're talking about a culture and a group of people who have dumbed down and vulgarized the culture of the United States to where we are today.
Amen. Vulgar, that's exactly the right word. And they are the ones who have done it. And if you have stood in opposition to it, they've called you an old-fashioned fuddy-duddy. They've accused you of wanting to go back to the days of Ward and Beaver Cleaver. And they have mocked you if you have stood for any version of morality whatsoever. They are the vulgarians. Exactly right.
Yes, sir, and that's exactly the case. And in fact, I believe it was Hillary Clinton that said back when she was running for office, it might have been last election cycle, but she was talking about abortion and women's reproductive rights, and her basic conversation was that if we were going to allow women to continue to have access, that we need to change the deep-seated cultural codes and the religious beliefs and the structural biases in the country needed to be changed. So these are the people who have taken morality and the upper hand and the things that matter to those of us on the right and good-hearted, Christian, hardworking American people, and they've taken it and said it's not worthwhile. Not only is it not worthwhile, but you're blocking everything that real people care about, which is just a bunch of nonsense. And it's all for political expediency. I mean, to think that Joe Biden and Barack Obama and Teddy Kennedy and all of these people haven't sat around and said the exact same things is nonsense. The only difference is they were career politicians who knew not to say it, I guess, maybe back then on an open hot mic or something to that effect.
Well, wait. I don't know about Biden and Obama. All I know is that Democrats have guys that have done it in addition to talked about it. And they have been celebrated, and they have been elected president, and we have been told that we're full of it if it bothers us. They have practitioners. They have people that do this kind of thing. You know what? Another good point you're making. They have attacked religious morality. If anybody's morality is rooted in religion, it has been targeted and mocked, and they've tried to destroy it. And now to act like they are so deeply offended by the things that Trump and Billy Bush said, when that's the kind of thing they have promoted as progress, tearing down the walls of restrictiveness in our culture and opening things up to free this and free that and let people be who they are and say, it's the hypocrisy that gets me. But it's more than hypocrisy, because they have people who have actually lived this vulgarity, and they have promoted these people who have lived this vulgarity, and they have told us that we're a bunch of stodgy old fogies if we're bothered by it. And they've told us it's none of our business. And they've told us to leave it alone. And then they've made fun of us for being a bunch of boring, no fun moralists. And then when somebody comes along and behaves exactly in a manner, speaks exactly in a manner that their politics is promoted, and we get this fake moral outrage that is just a bit much to take. That's bad enough. But when it's used to win an election, that's where I'm hoping that there is the biggest backlash brewing that anybody could think. Son, I got an email. I'm glad I got this email. I just checked it. So you agree with Trump? You don't have any problem with... I know you, whoever sent me that, you don't mean that. You're just trying to trick me up. But I'm glad you did, because it's given me an opportunity. I'm going to explain that. That is exactly what's wrong with all of it. The views expressed by the host of this show documented to be almost always right, 99.8% of the time. Happy to be with you, my friends. Telephone number 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. All right, let me take the first of these three quite lengthy pieces that I have mentioned by women. And by the way, I just sent the links of them all up to Coco, so you'll be able to link to them easily at rushlimbaugh.com. The one I'm going to start with is America, You Have No Right to Judge Donald Trump, is by Denise McAllister at PJ Media. And then there is On the Lewdness of Donald Trump by Rebecca Tetty. She might pronounce it Teti, I'm not sure, T-E-T-I. That's an American Greatness. And then Heather McDonald in the City Journal, Trumped Up Outrage. Now, these print out to 6-7 pages. Two of them do. I can't read each word, don't intend to, but I have some highlights and pull quotes. And first from Denise McAllister and the opening paragraph. The wizards of smarts in the political arena are telling us that Donald Trump's campaign is over because of recently leaked tapes of a private conversation from 2005 that was disparaging to women. The comments are so offensive, they say, he is not fit for office. From the moment the tapes are made public, the drumbeat to Trump's personal walk of shame began. Politicians who formerly endorsed him fled in terror, not wanting the soiled stain of sexual stigma attached to them. Never-Trumpers descended in holier-than-thou glee as they declared how noble and right they have always been, not to support such a despicable man. And the left has been howling like puritanical wolves, condemning him for his immorality and his sexist treatment of women. I find this reaction to Trump's private conversation rather ironic. It's ironic, coming from a secular culture that long ago declared objective morality dead. It's ironic, coming from politicos and media bottom feeders who defended the abusive and disgusting behavior of Bill Clinton, not when he was a private citizen, but when he was a sitting president. It's ironic coming from a Republican political elite that has told its religious base that social and moral issues don't matter in politics anymore. It's all about the economy, stupid. Leave your morals in the church, but don't voice them in the public square. That last is a brilliant point. How many of you have encountered such people on the Republican side of the aisle, say for the last 15 or 20 years? Every presidential election year, what do you hear from these holier-than-thou Republican moderates? We got to get them damn Christians out of the party. We got to get these social issues out of the party. Abortion, it's killing us. It's killing us. We got to get rid of these damn Christians and the Christian majority and the moral majority because they're destroying us. We're never going to win. We hate it. I don't want to go to a convention with them. I've heard it. You've heard it. I've told you stories about how I've been challenged with doing away with the religious right on the basis that they listen to me. It was at a fundraiser dinner at the Hamptons where I was approached by one of these elites jabbing his finger to my chest. What are you going to do about the Christians? It's exactly right, by the way. The moral majority, the religious right, what have you, considered to be the reason the Republican Party was losing. We need to dispatch them. We need to get rid of them. We need to stop being concerned about morality and the social issues. We got to focus on the economy. So they said. Fact of the matter is that Judeo-Christian ethics have been driven from our culture and declared a dinosaur from an ancient past. Right and wrong, virtue, morality, goodness, these have been rejected in pop culture, in our education system, in the media, and politics. We have been told repeatedly that character doesn't matter because everybody's values are different and you don't get to define morality for anybody but yourself. All that matters is an ideological agenda and the power that goes with it. That's all that matters, and you better have the right ideology and you better have the right agenda or we're going to destroy you. This all started years ago when the Republican Party suddenly became enlightened and decided social and moral issues don't matter. It's the economy, stupid. Don't talk about the evils of abortion. Don't talk about the Ten Commandments. Don't talk about prayer in schools. Don't talk about the immorality of same-sex marriage or transgender or even homosexuality. Don't talk about Bill Clinton's sexual abuse or anything that touches on the issue of character. We can't win if you do. Don't talk about it. Their message to salt-of-the-earth types who believe in right and wrong and principles and the Bible has been, for God's sake, just shut up. For years, the religious right was attacked and maligned from within the Republican Party. They were accused of being backwards, stupid, moralistic boobs. Political elites were ashamed to share the same space with them on a public stage. They just wanted them to go away. Well, they didn't go away, but they did listen. If morality doesn't matter in politics, then just elect somebody who will at least stop the leftist juggernaut or slow it down. Even though he's immoral, unprincipled, egotistical, and not really much of a conservative. In other words, the Republican elites told people that believe in right and wrong and morality and maybe Christians, forget it. Don't concern yourself with that. Don't concern yourself with vulgarity. Don't concern yourself with character. Don't concern yourself with things like abortion. We've got a bigger thing to fry. We have got to stop the left. We've got to stop the Democrats. And we can't do it if you people are going to be running around worried about morality all day. So what did people do? They said, okay, here's Donald Trump. The Republican base went out and nominated Donald Trump. And have you noticed that a whole lot of evangelical groups have not run away from him? Franklin Graham, others have stood right with him while other Republicans are running for the tall grass. Well, and the point here by Denise McAllister is, you Republican elites, this is what you said you wanted. You wanted somebody hip, you wanted somebody cool, you wanted somebody who wasn't a prisoner to religious values. You wanted somebody who wasn't a stiff, moralist, judgmental, demanding everybody be perfect character, have the right attitudes on guns and gays and marriage and what have you. And the Republican Party said, we can't win with you people. So, Republican-based voters, whether they intended to or not, whether they were responding to the Republican leader or not, ended up nominating somebody who clearly is not a disciple of the religious right or the moral majority, and never claimed to be, by the way. The Republican elites ought to be happy. The Republican elites ought to be saying, this is the way we do it. This is the kind of people the Democrats like. This is the kind of people Democrats nominate. This is the kind of people the Democrats vote for. This is the kind of people Democrats put on television. And they did put Trump on television. They gave him his own show at NBC News called The Apprentice. So Ms. McAllister's point, what the hell are you doing now? What are you Republicans who wanted to get rid of all this now piping up as though you're the religious prudes and there's no place in our party for people who don't kowtow to morality and virtue anymore? That's why she says, you have no right to judge Donald Trump. You got no right to judge anybody. You have been condemning the antithesis to Trump for years. Here comes what you get when you do that. You want to kick character out of the equation. You want to kick morality out of the equation, meaning the equation for proper and good candidates. You want to kick virtue out of the equation. You want to kick all these great moral and cultural virtues out of the equation. Fine. Go ahead. Well, this is some people's view what the result is going to be. Now, all of a sudden, you act righteously indignant, like your sensibilities have been offended, like we now can't win because we don't have somebody of proper morality and virtue and character. Is it any wonder that Republican-based voters' heads are spinning and swimming and are fit to be tied? And the same reaction to Democrats, because all of this is trumped-up phony. Most men love women. Most men are intrigued and bedeviled by them. Most men spend their lives dreaming about women. It's the most natural, normal thing in the world to do. But here comes the left and the Democrat Party trying to politicize even male-female relationships by inculcating into them things like feminism, proper political behavior, and what they have done is screw up everybody's human nature, where the opposite sex is concerned. Now nobody knows who they're supposed to be, where they're supposed to be, what they can and can't say, because who are the police in all of this? American leftists and liberals who have as their objective political agenda victory in every aspect of life. I haven't heard, I don't know, I haven't heard of Donald Trump behaving like Bill Clinton has and maybe still does behave. I don't think Trump hates women like they're trying to say. It's absurd on its face to say that Trump or people like Trump hate women, but that's what the left has done. So now it's gotten to the point where women on college campus imagine they're going to be raped, imagine they have been raped, write fake stories about being raped when it hasn't happened. Men don't want to get anywhere near these places anymore. Because something as beautiful and natural as male-female relationships have been perhaps inalterably politicized. And politicized from the standpoint that men are the predators, and that men are brutes, and that men are uncaring, and what have you. All to get the female vote. And I just sense people are getting fed up with it and tired. They may not even know specifically why. But it's just one of the seemingly gazillion things that just are not right in this country and out of whack. And everybody is now getting afraid to do things, say things, think things. Because somebody that you can see or can't see may someday surface and allege that you have been a reprobate. Like I say, folks, in the first hour, for those of you who think the Republicans have to get rid of Trump, if you go ahead. But I'm just going to tell you, they can do to Mitt Romney what they did to him. They can do it to anybody. It isn't going to help getting rid of Trump. If some point people don't stand up and make this kind of tactic not work for the Democrats, it's going to continue. For years, Christians in particular have been attacked and silenced as they've tried to challenge the immorality pervasive in today's society. When they tell people casual sex is wrong, they get the inevitable, "You've got no right to tell me what I can or can't do. You don't get to define morality for me. It's none of your business what I do. Shut up." If they oppose sexual immorality in any form, including adultery, they're maligned as sanctimonious Puritans who have not gotten with it in the 21st century. It's a long piece. It's well thought out. But the point is, in the midst of all of this, the very people promoting the dissolution of morality and virtue now claim to have their morality and virtue offended to the point that they can barely get out of bed every day unless we get rid of Donald Trump. It's about time somebody stood up to him, and that's what Trump's doing, and that's why he is alive and breathing in his campaign today. Not these other things. I got to take a break. We'll continue with your phone calls when we get back. Don't go away. By the way, back in April 6th, I went back because I thought I'd recall this. CNN did a whole story on it was a warning to Trump not to go after Bill Clinton. I remember sharing that story with you when it came out back in April on this program. And I pointed out, here they are already, CNN, already trying to protect Hillary by warning Trump, don't go there. And the last paragraph of this story is just delicious. But you hang on for that, because I said, now we're going to go to the phones. When I say it, we do it. So we're going to go back to Brownsville, California. Michael, glad you called, sir. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Hello, Rush. Megadittos from Northern California.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You're right on point today, exactly, with pointing out the hypocrisy on both sides of this issue. My question for you is, what about the supposedly conservative male pundits, Steyerwald or Krauthammer or these guys, who are so disingenuous to act like this is such a big deal? Why doesn't anyone just say this is how men are? It's testosterone. It's what we do.
Are you kidding? There's not a man alive today who is going to say, "Hey, I've done it. Hey, I've friends have done it." Hey, there's not a guy, particularly in the world of politics or media, who is going to say he is in any way familiar with what Donald Trump was saying.
It's really disappointing, Rush, because conservatives like us tune into you 3 hours a day for some guidance, and when you're not on the air, we look other places, and maybe there are some conservative pundits on Fox News, and to see them be so disingenuous on this issue, it's very disappointing.
Oh, wait a minute. Here's the difference. They actually live and function in the world of politics. And they they're happy to, and they admit so. I mean, they're media people, but they cover and analyze politics. I do not. I am a radio guy. I'm a radio talk show host, and I talk about things above and beyond politics. I'm just so good at it that I come across as a political expert. But I'm not afraid to sound like I'm not of the political apparatus. Those guys can't afford to. They've got to condemn it. They have to condemn it. It's expected in that business. It's in the unwritten rules of conventional wisdom. The conventional wisdom here is Trump's reprobate. You better not defend that. It's indefensible. It's indefensible based on where the establishment has taken politics and culture in public today. And if you get even close to explaining that, or if people think you're defending it, then you're going to get the same treatment Trump is getting.
But isn't it ironic that more women are coming to Trump's defense on this issue, like the articles that you pointed out?
Again, no, that doesn't surprise me at all. I think in the world of politics run by the left, men have been chickified.
Yeah, well, you're right about that.
And by the way, before you start thinking, I'm not saying they've become wimpized, although they may be. They've become chickified. I have always believed that in a civilized society, women really run it. Women have the power because it's women who say no.
That is very true.
Women who say yes or no. And that's what's always been such a curious thing to me about feminism, that they never lost any power. However, when you start talking about this particular area of our population, you're talking about the politicized nature of our country, where feminism dominates, and all heterosexual men want women. And all men realize you've got to do certain things. If you want to get a feminist, if you want to get a woman who happens to be a feminist, then you better do and be certain things. Men have gone crazy trying to be what they think women want them to be, and that's men in Washington. Gone crazy. Hi, how are you? Our previous caller made a good point, an illustration. He found it curious that it was women on the conservative side of the aisle who seem to be more able to spot what really is going on here. Therefore, it is women who are the least offended by what Trump's doing. I'll tell you this, folks. There's nobody better to tell you who's a man and who isn't than a woman. Women will spot manliness or lack of it faster than any man will. If you really want to know, it's just the way it is. Now, looking for strong men to, if not defend Trump, to at least try to put this perspective in conservative media, folks, it ain't going to happen. Everybody there's in the world of politics. Politics is, it's got its own rules and boundaries, and the daily narrative and the conventional wisdom. And if everybody in it concludes that Trump equals reprobate, Trump is sleaze, if you don't flow with it, if you don't at least admit to the premise first and then try to, qualify yourself, you're dead in that world. It's a follow me world, politics is. And the left runs it. And there are just certain things that you have to accept. And in that world, the definition of a real man is different from, I would say, outside Washington or outside the establishment. I don't think that's even arguable. But human nature is what it is, and men, straight men, want women. And it's always a challenge. It's never a piece of cake. You're rejected. Woody Allen, one funny thing he really said. Somebody said, Woody, what does success mean? He said, it means being rejected by a higher class of woman. Life is filled with rejection. Men, nobody. Women, they don't like rejection. It hurts. It's painful. But women do it. women are the ones that say no. Women are the ones that refuse marriage proposals, say no to going out on dates, say no to sex, say no whatever. And in a civilized society, that's the last word. Women have always had this power. As a student of sociological behavior, it's always fascinated me. Men will do whatever it takes. If they spot somebody they really like, they'll do whatever it takes. If it means read a Susan Brownmiller book to be conversant on what feminists think of rape, they'll do it when they otherwise wouldn't. If it means treating women as victims of reprobate men, if it means thinking that conservative men are a bunch of predators and wife beaters, then you do it. You think it. Whatever's required. Because most men end up being pee-whipped. It's the state of things. It's why there are babies. And that, I guarantee saying that is going to tick off so many what you cannot. I'm just referring to nature. Nature. What is the purpose of life? What is the primary objective of life? To live, to sustain itself. Life goes on. Wherever it is, its main objective is to keep going. And it always wins. Life always wins. And nature, it's all built into nature. Survivability, life perpetuating. And that means there have to be babies, everything. Baby birds, baby human beings, baby ants, baby, you name it. There have to be babies. And what has to happen for there to be babies? Okay, birds and bees, what has to happen for that to happen? It's all intertwined, and it's all nature. And the left has come along and tried to monkey with it by politicizing as much of it as they can for whatever, just really convoluted reasons. Taken a real beautiful thing, male-female relationships, and turned them into a battle, a political battle, an ideological war. And if you doubt me, what is the war on women? What the hell is, how crazy is that entire concept that there is a political party conducting a war on women because they hate them? And the fact that they can sell that to their voters and make political gain on that basis is damn amazing to me. And yet, how many people do you know who really believe that there's a war on women, that Republicans, conservatives, don't like women? It's the most stupid, I'll tell you what, liberalism has become a special kind of stupid. I have this story. I referenced this mere moments ago, and I want to go back to, I want to read to you this last paragraph because this is classic. This is the CNN piece from April, and it was the piece that served as a warning to Trump and the Republicans: don't bring up the Clinton sex scandal. The premise of the story is, you boobs tried this back in the 90s. You idiot Republicans, you tried destroying us and the Clintons and the Democrats with, don't make the same mistake again. Because, see, they're trying to help us. The media and the Democrats see it, and they're trying to help us. They don't want us to make the same mistake again, right? So they're warning us, do not try to go after Bill Clinton again. And here's how the story begins. Bill Clinton's nearly forgotten 1992 sex scandal. Begins, scandals are an integral part of the American political tradition. The lesson is that not all scandals are equal, and sometimes the failure of an incident to uproot a candidate tells us a good deal about the changing political moment in which they are running. And this was the case in 1992. Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton. They go on to talk about all the women that came forward, and it didn't harm Clinton, didn't derail Clinton. The Republicans overplayed their hand, and the warning here is don't do it again. And this first paragraph explains how the Clintons got away with it. And the translation of this paragraph is, the Clintons lied their head off, and they attacked the women who were telling the truth, and the drive-by media went along with the Clintons and helped destroy the women. That's what CNN admits happened here. And they're warning it'll happen again. If you, Trump, or any Republicans go after Hillary on the basis of going after Bill, we're going to lie again, and we're going to promote the Clintons again, and we're going to make sure you don't get away with it. And the last paragraph of this piece, I may read a sentence beforehand. Yeah. The times they were a-changin'. Bill Clinton never pretended to be some kind of cultural conservative who claimed that everybody should live by a certain personal standard, nor was he a politician who wanted some kinds of regulations on the ways in which other Americans lived their lives. The fact this did not bring him down revealed the zeitgeist had changed pretty dramatically. Meaning the fact that Clinton could survive all those scandals, all those women saying that he had done this to them, the fact that he could survive it revealed the zeitgeist had changed. Now, the definition of the zeitgeist is spirit of the times. So what this means is American cultural advancement had progressed to the point that a guy supposedly raping a woman and abusing others didn't bother Americans anymore because they were culturally advanced. And Republicans would pay the price for not seeing that. Republicans would pay the price for missing these lessons when they tried to impeach Clinton later based on a sexual relationship with intern Monica Lewinsky. That's not why he was impeached. It's because he lied under oath to a grand jury, but that's splitting hairs. What the Republicans learned once again, are you ready for this now? Remember, this is in a piece warning Trump not to go after Bill Clinton back in April. What the Republicans learned was the public didn't want these sorts of issues to dominate their politics. And in the end, the backlash from the impeachment proceedings against Clinton went against the GOP, not against Clinton. In the 2016 election, we're seeing once again that the public is more interested in the need to fix the economy and Washington than they are with the personal lives of most of the candidates in this campaign, at least those who don't claim any kind of special personal virtue. So let me translate this in case this ought to be slapping you upside the head here. In April, CNN warns us, don't go after Bill Clinton. You tried it once. It's not going to work. The American people don't want to hear this kind of stuff about their candidates. They want to hear about the issues. So you leave Clinton alone. It'll only hurt you, Trump. Now, what's been done to Trump? The exact thing that they're warning us not to do on Bill Clinton back in April. They're telling us the American people don't care about these kinds of things in a candidate. We have the need to fix the economy. We have to fix Washington. People don't care what Clinton did in 92. People don't care what Trump said in 2000. Except now that it doesn't involve Bill Clinton, isn't it interesting? The American people do care. And the American people care about it more than they care about issues because now it's not about Clinton, it's about Trump. So once again, this hypocritical double standard rears its head blatantly in such a way you can't miss it if somebody like me catches it and points it out to you. Here's the bottom line. I note that Paul Ryan has all but concluded that Trump is going to lose. He's not pulled back his endorsement, right? But he's not going to go out and fight for it. That's right. He has not pulled the endorsement, but he's basically telegraphed he thinks Trump's going to lose, and now he's working on saving the House majority and so forth. Right. He won't defend Trump and won't campaign for Trump. So, okay, fine and dandy. But I have to tell you something, folks. See, this is the real, when you get down to the nut-cracking time, here we are. For those of you who are never Trumpers, those of you who you just can't bring yourself to support Trump. How can you support Hillary? How in the world can you do that? And don't tell me you're not. Oh, I'm not. I'm going to sit it out or I may vote third. But BS. Anything you do besides vote for Trump is essentially electing Hillary Clinton. And the thing I want to know is If you're going to suggest that Trump is unsuited, unfit, not qualified, and if you are conservative and saying this about Trump, then how can you not say it about Hillary and her candidacy? If Trump is unfit, why is she not? On the basis that people are determining Trump is not fit, she's even more unfit, if you ask me. She's got a 30-year track record that tells us the damage she wants to do. She's got a 30-year track record of the kind of dishonesty and misdirection that tells us exactly what we are headed for. So if you can't bring yourself to support Trump on some basis, it's the exact same stuff with Clinton, only just as bad, if not worse. I can't help it that the election manifested itself the way it did. But for me, it's always been about one thing: defeating Hillary Clinton and the Democrats and the Obama agenda. And for the life of me, I don't understand why. Well, sadly, I do. It really bothers me, and it has for a long time. Irritates me why we on our side can't set aside the things that separate us and unify about one thing. We can't even unify around the concept of defeating Democrats? What good are we? What good is there a Republican Party if it cannot even unify around the concept of winning? For crying out loud. Do you realize the left have factions that hate each other? They've got different coalitions that despise each other. There's all kinds of coalitions, and they're all competing for as much of the federal money as they can get. The Democrat Party parcels it out on who knows what basis. But when it comes to stopping us, they forget all of that, and they unify around the singular objective of defeating us. We, on our side, apparently do not have even one thing in common that can unite us. Not even the desire to win. It boggles my mind. And I know from where it comes. It comes from political post-traumatic stress disorder. It comes from years and years of fear of what the American voter thinks of you. It comes from a never-ending desire to somehow convince the American voter that you're not the reprobate that the Democrats have portrayed you to be. A losing proposition. You got an R by your name, they're going to hate you no matter what you do and what you say and how you do it. Ask John McCain. Can't even unify around the concept of winning. And that's what they do. That's why if you can't see clear to support Donald Trump, because we'll take if it's this Access Hollywood audio, or if it's his supposed coarse and rough personality, or I don't care what it is. Same things exist with the Clintons. The Clintons have a known 30-year agenda and track record that any other year would be opposed. So we have people on our side who know how bad it is, and they know how much to disagree with it. But in this one instance, they would just as soon lose. Somebody explain it to me. Okay, in the next hour, we got a lot of great calls lined up. I want to get to them. Also, a review of the WikiLeaks email dump. Emails to John Podesta really expose Hillary Clinton as somebody who's not been telling her voters the truth about her plans and about who she is. And also millennial women just now learning about Bill Clinton's women. They are shocked. They didn't know any of this about Bill Clinton. All that coming up. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't understand. Well, that's not true. I do understand. Let me put it this way. It's very frustrating to see all of these Republican leaders act like the most important thing they have to do is make Democrat voters happy. They have to say things, they have to do things that are going to meet with Democrat voter approval. I don't get it. That's the thing in all of this that's the most, I guess, I was going to say perplexing, but it isn't perplexing because I know exactly why. They've got PTSD. They're on defense. They think that the media, Democrats have been successful for generations defining conservatives, so they think their mission is to do things and say things to convince these Democrat voters that they're not all these horrible, rotten things. To what end, I don't know, because they're not going to change the way people vote. Look at Paul Ryan, for example. Paul Ryan is not going to convince Democrats that he can take position whatever he wants on Trump in order to satisfy, please, whatever Democrat voters. But how's that going to help him keep the Republican majority? Well, you're missing the point, Mr. Limbaugh. As usual, what he's doing is trying to make sure that angry Republicans don't abandon the party. Angry Republicans. Look, I just do not believe that the vast majority of Republicans want to see Hillary Clinton elected. I just don't believe it. Do you, Mr. Snerdley, am I off base here? Do you think most mainstream Republican voters, coast to coast, in order to save the party, want Hillary to win? So I don't either. I don't think they've either. So I don't. What is to be gained by saying things, doing things that are aimed at pleasing and satisfying Democrat voters? Well, it's two things. We can never forget the donors, because it is the donors who are really determining what Republican leaders are saying about Trump. And this is also inarguable, if you ask. I think most of what I say is inarguable, but there is the posturing for losing. If you are a Republican in the leadership of the House or Senate, if you're just a consultant, if you're a Republican in politics, and if you are convinced that the election is over, that Trump cannot possibly win, then what do you want to do? You want to have a position that you can claim you occupied all along that said you knew so. If there is to be a defeat, you want to be able to say, you knew it all along, and you tried to prevent it, and you stood up to it. You tried to tell people that Trump was going to lose. You tried to tell people it was a mistake to nominate Trump. So there's this post-defeat posturing that's going on. In neither case is there any energy being expended toward winning. And they still are trying to figure out why Trump got the nomination in the midst of all this. Audio sound bites take you back December 5th, 2014. Me on this very program. You wait until these millennials find out how she enabled her husband to sexually abuse all of these women. They weren't alive when that happened. They weren't alive during Paula Jones, Jennifer Flowers, and Kathleen Wheeler. They weren't old enough to remember it. Lewinsky and all that. Wait till they find out. Let me put it to you this way. Today's millennials, if, don't misquote me on this, If they found out that Obama was running around serially involved in adulterous relationships, and Michelle Obama was in charge of ruining the reputations of the women involved, do you think the millennials would put up with it? Well, wait till they find out that Hillary ran the bimbo eruptions. This generation of young people, gay marriage, all of this stuff, fine and dandy feminism, totally runs their show. You wait till they find out Hillary's role in what she did to other women. I'm telling you.
Now, for those of you who have listened to this program for years, what Trump did yesterday, he pulled another trick on the media. He called a pre-debate press conference. So they showed up. I don't know if they thought he was going to announce that he was getting out of the race. So who knows what they tell themselves. But when they showed up to his press conference, there they were. Juanita Broaddrick, Kathleen Willey, Paula Jones, 12-year-old girl raped by a guy that Hillary defended, got off on the charge of raping the then 12-year-old. And Trump let them tell their story. The media was fit to be tied. They'd been roped into, tricked into. And what Trump did, for the first time in 20 years, got those women's stories on CNN. Now, 90% of the drive-by media did nothing more with it. They're still obscuring it, not covering it. But for the first time, those women's stories reached mass media. And that means for the first time, a bunch of millennial-aged women found out about this. From the sources, not from media that they may have a problem with or not trust or believe, but from the women themselves. Hillary claims that the millennial vote is very important to her, very crucial. They always say this. And the millennial vote's probably going to be what it usually is, not nearly as big a turnout as everybody predicts that it's going to be. But this is one of these things that might not be showing up right now in polling data. The polling data right now looks horrible for Trump. I saw moments ago on Fox that Hillary's up 11. I guess it's their poll. I don't know. The poll was not. It's an NBC News Wall Street Journal poll. And Hillary's up 11 in a four-way race. And they're concluding that that's it. That's over. So forth. And you can probably expect, folks, that there's going to be more Trump audio or video. I'm sure the people that have been collecting this. Why didn't they do this back in August? They've had this Billy Bush audio. They've had this for months. Why didn't they use it in September? Why didn't they use it to affect the Republican nomination? They have been waiting for just the right time. And I think what's going on now is they're letting all of this be reacted to by Trump. And when it settles down, which it always does, there will be even more. And the cycle here is going to continue. And they'll find things of in Trump's past where he will probably be accused, probably maybe even sided with the Clintons or with Bill Clinton, a couple things. They're going to do whatever they can to point out what they think is Trump hypocrisy and so forth. So this stuff will continue. There'll be more of this before the next debate. Mark my words. But I do want to play a soundbite here from Kayleigh McEnany, who is a Trump supporter. And she is one of Trump. I think she's a spokeswoman for Trump. She's on TV occasionally. This is last night's CNN. Debate night in America. Pre-debate coverage. Jake Tapper speaking with Trump supporter Kayleigh McEnany about Trump's press conference with Juanita Broaddrick, Kathleen Willey, and Paula Jones. And Jake Tapper said, how many voters does this add to Trump's voters? I mean, this little trick that Trump pulled here, how many votes is it going to get him? And I believe all the people who know these stories
are already probably voting for Trump anyway. So what does he expect to get out of all this?
You know who doesn't know these stories? It's the millennials. It's millennial women. 1 in 5 women on a college campus are the victims of sexual assault. And Hillary Clinton tweeted out a year ago, every survivor of sexual assault deserves to be heard, believed, and supported. For her to put out a statement right now calling it a stunt when 3 women have the courage to take the national stage and before all of this country share their stories of sexual assault, that is sick, Hillary Clinton. Did they not think through this? Isn't a stunt? Ask Juanita Broderick if this is a stunt. Ask these women if it is a stunt. It is courage. These women are courageous, and we need to recognize that.
All right, so that was Kayleigh McEnany claiming that millennial women are going to find out about this. 1 in 5 don't know about it, and there might be some bad news for Hillary in it. Later on CNN, as we're staying in order here on the audio sound bites, CNN's special pre-debate edition of Aaron Burnett Out Front. She had on Jeffrey Lord from the American Spectator talking about Trump's press conference with Juanita Broderick, Kathleen Willey, and Paula Jones. Aaron Burnett said, "You now have them sitting in the audience of the debate. They went from the pre-debate press conference to the audience. You have Bill Clinton sitting in the same room that they are sitting in." How does this play out, Jeff?
What they've just done here is get this out into the conservative media stream, whether it's picked up, and obviously it is picked up right here on CNN, and to get this everywhere. You can be guaranteed that tomorrow morning or tomorrow noon when Rush Limbaugh hits the airwaves, that this will be topic A. And
Did you hear what happened to the mention of my name? They all started talking. Every damn one of them on the panel. You know who that was? That was Paul Begala, David Axelrod, Gloria Borger, and Van Jones. And play it again. The very mention of my name. And they all go bonkers trying to stop Lord from what he is saying and making sure that no further communication happens.
What they've just done here is get this out into the conservative media stream, whether it's picked up, and obviously it is picked up right here on CNN, and to get this everywhere. You can be guaranteed that tomorrow morning or tomorrow noon when Rush Limbaugh hits the airwaves, that this will be topic A. And
Is that not hilarious? That's hilarious. The mention of my name is a trigger. And they all just go nuts. The Wall Street Journal NBC poll, Clinton 52, Trump 38, 446 respondent margin of error 4.46%. I don't care how you slice. That doesn't look good, 52-38. That's not 11 points, that's 12. No, that's 14 points. That's not I saw a poll that had 11. This is worse than the one I saw. And I don't know, are these pre-debate polls? These have to be. Oh, post-audio tape, but pre-debate, post-audio tape. Yeah. Did you hear Frank Luntz did a focus group last night on Fox with Megyn Kelly? Well, here, I've got those bites. Let me find. I got time to find it real quick here. Frank Luntz was shocked. Study 7. What? Starting at 7. Okay, and I went past them. Yes. Okay. The Luntz focus group on Fox loved Trump last night, and they didn't want to, and they didn't expect to. So Luntz says, I want a word or phrase to describe Donald Trump's performance.
I feel he was much improved.
Calm and strong.
He had practice.
He seemed more presidential.
Much improved. Sure of himself.
Much improved.
The bar set so low for him.
More researched.
So after asking the group what they thought after the debate, Luntz then offered this bit of analysis.
This is the first time of the 3 debates that there has been any genuine movement. I have to acknowledge something here. I thought that it was all over for Donald Trump. And when these people walked in here, I was pretty sure of it. Based on their response, and I hope to bring some more of it to you later on in the show, I have to change my mind. I actually think that tonight was so significant that he is back in this race.
Frank Luntz in his focus group last night. It kind of goes against these polls that the drive-bys are presenting out there. To whatever extent you want to apply credence to any of this. But that debate last night, I don't want to be repetitive. I've spent the first half hour of the program today on this. But it was remarkable because the purpose of last night was to finish Trump
off. And not just this campaign. Last night was about totally destroying Donald Trump in his business, his character's reputation, everything, as a warning to the next person that might try it. Remember what happened to Trump. It is classic establishment. The media and the Democrats working together. And last night and Trump, well, if you want to say the debate was a draw, no matter how you slice this, when you realize what the objective was, this was a huge win for Trump. Whether he wins the election or not, last night was huge, personally, for Trump. That he pulled it off, that he was able to pull it off, that he pulled it off so decisively. It was a big, big moment for him personally, because this was, in addition to all the political noise, an effort to destroy the man as well, for daring to even try this. Okay, time to go back to the phones. Christine in San Clemente, California. Welcome. Great to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Rush. You are such an inspiration to so many of us who need to be comforted and uplifted after the news media hits us with all of these issues. Greetings from sunny San Clemente in Orange County, California.
It's beautiful there. It's beautiful. It's great to have people in the audience from there. It's a beautiful place, and I thank you very much for what you said.
Oh, you are very welcome, Rush, because every morning I'm depressed about what I hear, and I turn you on, and you just explain.
Yeah, I know these 3 hours of this program are the only 3 hours anymore when life seems normal.
You're right. Rush.
Yes.
You know what? I'm proud to say that I am an evangelical Christian, and I'm proud of it. I'm a Trumpster completely all the way through and through. And plus, I'm a woman. Rush, I don't fit into this mold. I don't have the outrage, and I'm not a hypocrite.
Wait. What mold do you not fit into? Are you telling me you're not upset with what Trump said?
I am not an outraged woman over what Trump said.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not embarrassed to tell people that. Oh, well, you're a Christian. Yes, I'm a Christian, but I'm not a hypocrite. You know, there's only one person who was sinless, Rush, and we know who that was.
Yes, we do.
Rush, do you know that Saturday Night Live said the P word on Saturday night?
Are you kidding? That's the least of what... It's everywhere. The P word. In fact, Cookie said, look, it's in so many sound bites today. She said, do you want me to let it go, or should I edit it out, bleep it? And I said, this program has standards. We're going to bleep it out.
Russ, why aren't we hearing about that? The very people who are attacking Trump for his words are saying the same thing. Hollywood has been saying this for years and years.
I know. I did a whole monologue on it because they are allowed to.
Russ, you know...
The important thing of what you're saying here is that you're a Christian and you're not bothered by it. The Republican Party thinks people like you are petrified, angry, and ready to leave the party over this.
That's why I was so encouraged by your words today, because you identified this hypocrisy. And it's not true. We are not outraged. You know, this happened 11 years ago. He's given an apology. I've accepted it. And, you know, anyone else who doesn't want to accept it, then so be it.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question of everybody? I know I'm running a risk. I'm walking along a narrow precipice here when I ask this. But to how many women is language like this coming from any man a surprise? Now, I mean, I'm just asking. I mean, I'm trying to imagine this. Okay, the tape is released.
on Friday, and all the cable networks are playing the tape, and I'm trying to imagine millions of women in front of the TV standing up in outrage and shock and saying, well, I never. Is that what he thinks? I don't know a single guy who talks that way. How many women like that are there? Oh, how many women are stunned and shocked by that? Well, Rush, I mean, we're talking about a presidential candidate. I got to point you to Bill Clinton and the Democrats. I'm sorry, but you've already elected a guy. Back to the WikiLeaks. I mentioned a bunch of times here on the program that there's what I think are some bombshells in this release as it relates to the impact on Democrat voters. And yesterday, CNN's Inside Politics. The roundtable was asked about Hillary Clinton telling bankers behind closed doors that she wanted open trade and open borders. This is according to transcripts of her Wall Street speeches. This is what WikiLeaks got and has released. And Hillary tried to blame this all on the Russians last night. She tried to blame it on Putin and then say that Trump was working with Putin and so forth. We don't know how this leak happened. Julian Assange is not saying so. It doesn't matter. Hillary's not denying any of it. Glenn Thrush, who is a drive-by leftist activist in the media, said this is really damaging stuff. Now, you want some shocking private words? Everybody's focusing on Trump and the Pusa and all this other stuff he's talking about. How about a candidate for president saying in private that she's not for enforcing immigration law? Well, it's not really shocking when you hear a Democrat say this. I understand this. Behind closed doors, Hillary Clinton promised to violate her oath of office, and she will appoint thousands of people to be instructed to do the same. She made this promise to her Wall Street donors and her cronies, and there are a number of examples. From Breitbart, WikiLeaks reveals Hillary lied about the Marines rejecting her because she was a woman. Do you remember the story that she tells that she goes into the Marine office when she was 26 or 27 in Chicago, and she says that they turned her down because she was a woman and that maybe the dogs would take her. Well, it turns out that's not the story she told the bankers in her speeches. According to transcripts released by WikiLeaks, in a speech at the annual meeting of the American Society for Clinical Pathology in September 2013, and a couple of banks, she said the same thing too, Hillary had a completely different story than she gave in 1994. When asked by a member of the audience if in 1975 she was rejected from the Marines because she was female, Hillary said no, that had nothing to do with it. She said she was rejected because she was too old. Question from the audience. Is it true that until 1975 you applied for the Marines and they told you no because you're a woman? Hillary, no. Here's what did happen. There was a recruiting station, and I thought, maybe I should consider serving my country by joining the military. So I walked to the recruiting station, and the person on duty was a Marine. I think I was 26 or 27. So an older potential recruit. And I said to the young Marine, I said, well, I'd be interested in getting some information to see whether I could maybe serve. I'm a lawyer. Maybe I could help in some way. He said, well, I think you're too old for the Marines, but maybe the dogs will take you. And I said, the dogs? And he goes, yeah, the Army. And Hillary says, well, it doesn't sound like I'm going to be welcome. But the difference is that when she told this story numerous times in public, she said that the recruiter told her no because she was a woman. She always tells this story within another story about how it's unfair for women out there, how women are discriminated against and how women are mistreated. And when she told this story in public the first time in 1994,
She said the primary reason the Marine recruiter told her no was that she was a woman. And somebody in the audience at one of these speeches asked her, no, it didn't have anything to do with the fact that I was a woman. I was too old. It's no different than Mrs. Clinton claiming that she was named after Sir Edmund Hillary. Sir Edmund Hillary, the first man to climb Mount Everest. The only problem with that is that he didn't climb Mount Everest until Hillary was 6. Her mother and dad could not have known of Edmund Hillary. Nobody knew of him. He wasn't from America. So she could not possibly have been named for him. But she stuck with the story. Another email leak in the WikiLeaks trove indicates a cozy press relationship. One January 2015 strategy document designed to plant stories on her decision-making process about whether to run for president singled out reporter Maggie Haberman, who was then at the Politico. She's now at the New York Times. Maggie Haberman was singled out as a friendly journalist who has teed up stories for Hillary in the past and never disappointed. Nick Merrill, the campaign press secretary, produced the memo according to the document metadata. And it's right here in the email about how Hillary, January 2015, that's just a year and a half ago, planting stories on how she decided to run for office with somebody at the Politico because they've really helped us in the past. Not news to you and me, but this is the kind of, she's admitting this in speeches and in other documents that are in the treasure trove from WikiLeaks. There's much more. Hillary's leaked speeches confirm Russia funded anti-fracking groups. You know how crucial this is? Hillary Clinton confirmed to an audience behind closed doors what national security experts have warned about for years, that the Russians are pumping money into anti-fracking environmental groups. Clinton told an audience in Edmonton, Canada, hosted by the PR firm Tyne Public, that Russian oligarchs were propping up against phony environmental groups opposed to pipelines and hydraulic fracturing, according to emails published by WikiLeaks. Clinton said in a June 2014 speech, "We were up against Russia pushing the oligarchs and others to buy media. We were even up against phony environmental groups. And I'm a big environmentalist," she said. "But these were funded by the Russians to stand against any effort that pipeline, fracking, whatever will be a problem for you." And a lot of money supporting that message was coming from Russia. Well, it just happened to be exactly what her position was. She's opposed to fracking, and fracking is what has gotten us our energy independence. Fracking is shale oil. It's a way to get oil that previously was unreachable. We have gobs of it. It's led to our overwhelming natural gas reserves. Fracking has been a great thing, and the environmentalist wackos in this country have been running story after story. Creaming fracturing causes earthquakes, causes global warming, poisons the water, all this stuff. Hillary agrees with them. If we learn that it was Russian oligarchs, well, the Russian wealthy, the Russian elite, that were funding all these efforts. And she knew it. And she tries to pass herself off as somebody really on the prowl against Russia. We can't let Trump into office. He's in bed with Putin. Here's Hillary Clinton essentially knowing full well that the Russians were trying to undermine fracking in this country. They were paying for the PR campaign that the Democrat Party, whether by accident or by design, agreed with. And there's much more. One email leak shows that Clinton may have revealed the details of the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. You want to talk about blabbing and sharing classified data? It's just over the top. She admits in an email she's out of touch. She talks about the need to have private and public positions on policy.
She talks about holding Wall Street accountable only for political reasons. In other words, she's talking to bankers, and she winks at them. And she says, look, for political purposes, I have to appear to be holding you accountable. It's exactly what we knew was going on. While she publicly reams them and rips them to shreds, she's already winked at them. Don't worry, I have to do this. You know I have to do this. And they are cool with it. When she made speeches to Goldman Sachs and other Wall Street banks, she suggested that Wall Street insiders are what is needed to fix Wall Street. Now, you wait till the Bernie Sanders voters find out about this. Bernie Sanders voters believed in Bernie because they believed he hated Wall Street, that they were the big problem. Bernie was going to fix him. He's going to punish him. And Hillary is out there trying to say the same thing. In fact, she's met with them, and she said, look, I have to say these things publicly. But in truth, I think you're the only people that can help fix what's wrong, you Wall Street insiders. They're in bed with one another is the point. I've got to take a break. Back with more. Well, another exciting excursion into broadcast excellence is over, but we'll be right back here tomorrow, folks, revved and ready to do it again. Thank you so much, as always, for being with us. See you next time.